of Iran is observing 3 days of mourning after a major earthquake shook the region on Sunday. That's our first story today on CNN 10. Thank you for watching. There aren't many earthquakes each year that have a magnitude greater than 7.0. This one was magnitude 7.3. U.S. Geological Survey says that makes it capable of considerable damage in everyday buildings and severe damage in structures that aren't well built. The tremor struck near Iran's western border with Iraq on Sunday night, and it was felt hundreds of miles away in countries like Pakistan and Turkey. The quake's epicenter, the point on the Earth's surface directly above its focus, was in a rural area, but it was only about 14 miles deep, which is considered shallow and potentially more destructive. An aid worker in the region says more than 500 villages were damaged. Authorities in Iran and Iraq say at least 452 people were killed, the vast majority in Iran, and hundreds of others were injured. Iranian government officials have told aid agencies and rescue workers to do everything they can to help the people who've been affected. The aftershocks that followed the quake shook people across the Middle East. This is the deadliest earthquake to hit worldwide this year. It's not the deadliest ever to hit Iran. Scientists say the country sits on a major fault line between plates and that some previous earthquakes have killed tens of thousands.
Number 1. An earthquake occurs when two blocks of the earth slip past each other. Now, for most of the time, those blocks are together with friction, but they are building up energy because they are moving in different directions. When one block decides to slip, all of a sudden that energy is released by seismic waves, kind of like ripples on a pond, creating the earthquake. Number 2. An earthquake can occur very near the surface of the earth. Those earthquakes are typically very destructive, or as deep as 400 miles down into the crust. Now, where the shaking actually happens, that's called the hypocenter, but directly above it on the surface, that's called the epicenter. Number 3. The power of an earthquake is called magnitude. Now, the intensity of the shaking can vary depending on the geography, the topography, or even the depth of the quake. Now, the USGS says there are 500,000 detectable quakes every year. 100,000 can be felt, and 100 will create damage. Number 4. Earthquakes themselves actually don't kill that many people. It's the natural and man-made structures that fall to the ground during the shaking that injure and kill. Number 5. The majority of all earthquakes and volcanoes happen along plate boundaries. The largest is the Pacific Plate and its series of boundaries all along the Pacific Ocean, known as the Ring of Fire.
Second trivia. Which of these landmarks would you find near the Australian state of Queensland? Great Barrier Reef, Sydney Opera House, Ayers Rock, or the Great Ocean Road? The Great Barrier Reef can be found off the coast of Queensland, which also manages the reef's marine park. Scientists are keeping a close eye on an event that looks like an underwater snowstorm in the Great Barrier Reef. We reported on recent coral bleaching events in the reef when the coral gets stressed and loses its vibrant color. Bleaching events occurred in 1998, 2002, 2016, and 2017. This can happen when water temperatures get too warm or too cold, and it's a bad sign for the coral's health. This, by contrast, is a good sign. It's the annual event of coral spawning, when the colonies reproduce. It starts after a full moon. Queensland saw one of those on November 4th, and it lasts several nights. Like coral bleaching, spawning is also dependent on water temperatures. They have to be warm enough to help adult coral mature. Biologists say they're encouraged by the amount of reproductive activity they're seeing this time around. From sea to store, Next Story brings together business, fashion, and technology. We've reported a lot this year on how many U.S. retail companies are closing stores or going out of business, and how that's partly because more Americans are doing their shopping online. But one strike against that is that it doesn't usually allow you to try on clothes before you buy them to see how they'd actually look on you. Well, some companies are turning to AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual reality, to bring you a step closer to that. What people see are increasingly realistic simulations of actually trying something on.
In the future, getting dressed may involve a lot more tech than you ever expected.
So this is where, you can see like it's really photorealistic quality, even though it's 3D.
I see the fur like moving. Yeah. First up, Amazon's Echo Look. They call it a style assistant. So we put it to the test. Alexa, take a picture. Against an actual stylist.
I want to see.
So it's like,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
It's like, and then there we go. Let's do a style check. Its review takes some time, but when it's done, it ranks which one it likes the best. According to Alexa, I am supposed to wear the light blue daytime outfit. Oh, they say the color's better for you, the outfit shape works better for you. Amazon's algorithm doesn't stop at telling you what looks good. It also tries to sell you clothes, but its suggestions are hit or miss. And while the Echo Look may help you decide between two looks, it can't take into account the nuance of where you're going. But when you hear about the development of all of these advanced technology, do you worry about the future of your job?
For me, I personally don't. I think with the future of technology and fashion, I think will benefit like production and retail. As a stylist, there's just that, interpersonal communication that you can't replace.
Since the emergence of e-commerce, how we shop is moving away from stores. Some tech companies are trying to enhance the digital shopping experience by introducing AR and VR. How do you see AR and VR changing the shopping experience?
We see it changing completely. Like if you think about e-commerce, every brand and every product essentially looks the same online. That doesn't encapsulate like what the brand is about. So we are building the technology that will enable any brand and retailer to create amazing, immersive, discovery-based shopping experiences.
Is it really that much better than online shopping is currently?
You have to try it.
Okay.
Yeah. And with this technology, we are getting closer and closer to the real world, because the real world is three-dimensional. It's all around us. It's not just. So whatever technology can get us closer to the real world, like that's going to be the next thing. Eventually, this will be you, because that's the holy grail for fashion.
Right.
It's like, I want to see how I look in this. Not only do you need a 3D model, but you need the physics built into this model to see how this fabric flows, like how it's going to stretch.
Right.
Yeah. So all of that is becoming possible. We are not quite there yet.
If AR and VR want to change how we shop, digital avatars need to actually look and move like humans. Researchers from the Max Planck Institute for Intelligent Systems created ClothCap, which captures how clothing moves on a digital avatar. It can also estimate how clothing looks on different body types. It'll be years before we're shopping in our bedrooms in AR and VR, but technology is getting smarter, and so might our style.
Last year, near a lava flow in Hawaii, a GoPro camera recorded its own demise. Eric Storm, the tour guide who owns the camera, says he got distracted after putting it down and forgot about it. The lava kept coming, eventually melting the outside of the camera, but the thing kept recording, and somehow the video survived on the device's SD card. What's amazing is that just when you think the video and the camera are finished, it just keeps going. Storm used a rock hammer to free the camera after it got caught between a rock and a hot place. And while some skeptics didn't believe the story, they say he cooked it up. Storm says, this is not pahui-hui, just an accident that heated up an online debate. I'm Carl Azus for CNN 10.